Hello, everybody. Welcome to the TMA Sports Network live interview show. We're still sorting out internet troubles, but we think we're getting there. Today, we've got Neil Kelly, coach of Qasim the Dream Beg. Where's he gone? Oh, there he is. He's trying again on a different device. You might need to turn your volume down, though, Gav. I've got two of you now. Which one do I remove? There you go. That's the one. Yeah, so we've got Neil Kelly, Qasim's coach. We're going to talk about the big fight. We've got some questions. I'm sure people watching the stream are going to have some questions as well. Gav's got a little update for us, so let's just dive into it. Gav, do you want to start this off? Are you ready?
I'm ready. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you. You're on your phone now.
I've actually come on my phone. I think it's my iPad.
Okay.
Now, come July, mate. What is it, July the 19th? There's no more of this technology issues. We've gone through it all, haven't we? We've gone through it all. But, yeah, happy to be joined by Neil Kelly. Obviously, famous kickboxing trainer of champions. He's obviously coach of Qasim the Dream Beg in this fight. Happy to have you on, Neil. How's things?
Yeah, it's good to be on. Good to get away from the gym and not have to have my arms beat up for an evening, which is all good.
You know what? Being a coach doesn't get the thanks that it deserves sometimes, does it? The fighter gets to hit the pads and then walk away, and then you've got to take someone else on the pads. It's
yeah, and rightfully so, though, isn't it? You know, it's we've had our glory, our little bit of glory. It's about the fighters now, isn't it?
No, of course, and obviously with the fighters, you don't get where you are without having a great team and a great coach behind you. I know that USKA, obviously, Steve, for you as well, new to all this. USKA's one of the most decorated gyms in the country. They seem to win everything that they compete for, and that's no luck. That's down to hard work, dedication, a good team behind them. So, Neil, just for those who don't know, just tell us a little bit about USKA.
USKA is basically my brainchild. Formed in 1996, 1997. So before USKA, I was with a couple of different associations. Just basically wanted to, head my association in the direction I thought that it needed to go, which was I was always more sport orientated than martial art orientated. So although I like martial arts and the tradition that surrounds it, really for me it was all about sport and competition and strategy, and I'm a big boxing fan as well. So a lot of what we do we take from boxing. So yeah, I just wanted to head USKA in that direction, more sport orientated and sport direction.
And the thing is, you can see the direction that obviously it's gone. Anyone who comes up against an USKA fighter in a tournament, or as a promoter myself, trying to match an USKA fighter, even if it's their debut, and they say, okay, who's the kid? Oh, it's Joe Bloggs. Where's he from? USKA. Oh, no.
Do you know what it is, Gav? I think it's preparation. It's like, I've got OCD, and I like a massive margin for error. And everybody that competes for the gym, they've got to be prepared. They've got to be ready. We don't wing it. We don't, leave it to luck. They go in ready. And I think, most people, if they go in ready, they'll have the success.
Exactly. It's all about preparation. So moving on, obviously, Qasim, how is preparation going? I know fight night was meant to be last weekend. We've got an extra 5 weeks on top. How is preparation going?
Pretty good, Gav. Pretty good. I've got to be honest, it's like this is the first time ever in his whole career that we've gave a dedicated full-time camp, which is like 3 hours with me in the day. He does 3 hours with me in the day. Well, between 2.5 and 3 hours with me in the day. Then he goes down and works with his other coach on the evening, Sean Quinn. Does his strength and conditioning outside of that. Does his runs outside of that. It's a proper professional camp this time. Circumstances before didn't allow us to do that. And we're in a position now that we're full-time professional, ready to pick up another belt. He's never been as sharp as he is right now. He's never been as focused as he is right now. He's never been as strong as he is right now. I can't look past a win for him, to be honest.
And that was going to be my next question: is this the best you've seen him? Which
100%, 100%.
It's quite scary, really, isn't it? That it's going to be his 50th fight. He's unbeaten, and as his coach, you're saying this is the best he's ever been.
Gav, like, I know that people watching this will say, "Oh, well, that's what you've got to say," because that's what everyone says, isn't it? Like, "Oh, he's the best he's ever been and the sharpest they've ever been." 100%, he is the best he's ever been. He's the most focused he's ever been. And I've got to be honest, I'm giving him more time than I've ever given him before. Like, the whole gym has gone on the back burner for me. It's like my focus is Qasim and the goal of beating Liam Alford. My whole focus is that.
And is part of that down to becoming a 4-time professional world champion?
Do you know what it is, Gav? I think the last couple of fights that we've had, I've been like spinning plates and juggling in regards to the commitment. So Kaz would get there on the evening and we'd have to get all the work done on normal evening class times, which is like within the 3 hours. But at the same time, I'm having to look after everybody else. I'm having to train everybody else. I took Kaz on as a full-time coach about 1.5 years ago. So all the way through the lockdown, he was coaching full-time for me. And when we went back to the gym after the lockdown, Kaz took the majority of the classes on the evening. So I kind of like struck a deal with Kaz and I said, right, you teach the classes on the night and I will give you 100% of my time in the day. And it's working brilliantly because he gets his work done. He gets his runs done in the morning. He gets his afternoon session, which is his technical work, done with me in the afternoon. He goes and teaches his class on the evening with the help of assistant instructors and senior grades. And he's good to go on the next day. And I know that if I was teaching like 3-4 hours on the evening, I wouldn't have the energy to do what I'm doing with him in the day. Yeah. So I think that's working really, really well for us. And to be honest, right up until the end of the career and that Kaz's career, I can't see us doing anything different than what we're doing now.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Like, I'm in that position at the moment with my gym. Obviously, with the professional fighters that I've got now, I'm trying to get a team of coaches around me, and I'm fortunate enough to have some great coaches at our gym. So my goal is to free up the time so I can give these professional fighters the time that they need. Mm-hmm. And like you say about juggling plates, when you're trying to train a professional world champion, but you've also got in the same class someone who's only been coming for 2 weeks, and you've got 50 other students in there who are paying that rent, who need that attention.
Yeah,
it's who do you go to? So I think what you're doing is, I think it's actually going to. I actually agree with you that it can only bring out the best. It can only bring out better in the fighter.
Well, the thing is, Gab, like Kaz has got his teeth into the coach's role now as well, which means that he doesn't just do his session with me in the day and go home and watch Netflix all night. His head is in the game from like morning till midnight. And
it's working. His job is now something he loves doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole happy life, isn't it? I suppose.
He's just immersed in kickboxing, and I personally think that that's the difference between good fighters and great fighters. Like me and Kaz must like go back and forth with messages and WhatsApps and YouTube clips and fight strategies throughout the day, like constantly, you know, because it's always on his brain. And he's lucky enough to have a coach that's got OCD about kickboxing. You know, I'm still in love with kickboxing. So like he can message me at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, check this video clip out, you know, that I've just seen on the internet. And I'm like, whoa, cool. So I'll have a look at that and we'll discuss that at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. It's like we're lucky that we're both as committed and driven towards the end goal.
Neil, just a quick one from me. When we spoke to Qasim a little while ago, and obviously, you know, you mentioned about 50, you know, and we asked him the question about how he would handle Liam, and he said, "Well, I've been in almost every scenario you could ever imagine." So, as a coach who's constantly trying to fine tune things and improve things, what are you looking for exactly in a fighter that has already? Because you've got to keep him on the ball. I know he's, you know, very self-motivated, but what are you looking for specifically to try? How do you find those inches and millimeters of you know, improvement? I suppose that's what I'm getting at. How do you find those in a fighter like Qasim, who's done everything already?
Yeah, in this camp, I think the bigger thing was not only to work him hard, to not let him get bored in his training, for things to get repetitive, to find fresh challenges in his training. So like when he come into the gym, to try and throw something new at him that he hasn't done before, or throw something new at him that he hasn't done in that particular way. Because I know that when he has to assess something and break something down, that's when I see the best of him. When he goes into autopilot, he just does what he does. And I'll be honest with you, it's been really challenging for me as a coach, especially with this extension of 6 weeks, because it's like we were approaching the end of our training camp. And now I have to reinvent his training for another 6 weeks and not let him get bored and let him get stagnant. So this is my day. My day is I'll train him in the day for 2.5, 3 hours. I'll come home. We film everything. So I'll come home and I'll assess that 3 hours of footage. So I'll look at that 3 hours of footage, see where we can find those millimeters, find where we can those improvements. Then I'll have to spend another 1.5 hours, 2 hours planning his next day's session. So it has become like a full-time job for me, just looking after Qasim for this fight. But I love it. I absolutely love it.
As it give you, we've seen Qasim back on the big like not on the big stage, but yeah, fuck it, on the big stage. TMA Fight Series is the big stage, but has it give you the hunger that, I'm not saying you maybe was losing the hunger, but does it give you a spark which was like, I'm back, I'm 100% in this?
I think, as you'll appreciate what I'm saying here, as a coach, over your career, your coaching career, you want to achieve certain things. So you want to achieve like getting a fighter a Midland title, then you want to get them an English title, then you want to get them a British title, then you want to get them a world title, amateurs, then you want to turn them pro, then you want to get them a Midland title, an English title, a European title, a world title, then you want to unify world titles. So as a coach, I felt like, and it's horrible to say because I don't want to sound like big-headed or anything, but I've ticked all my boxes.
Yeah.
Like I've ticked all my boxes as a fighter, as that I wanted to do as a fighter, or that I was happy to do as a fighter for myself. And then kind of like with Qasim and Mick Crossland and Dale Wood, I've got them there, or I was part of their success in getting them their professional world titles. And it's kind of like, what do you do from now? Like, what's the next goal? And with Qasim and with the TMA Fight Series, because you're a big part of this gap, it's like, how far can we take this? You know, how many belts can we get this kid? You know, how many champions can we take these belts off? How many established champions can we become a wrecking ball for? You know, so it's like every time Kaz fights now is new ground for me. So it keeps it exciting for me, you know, and another belt, another champion.
I completely understand what you're saying about what you've achieved and stuff like that. Like, I remember when I first started out coaching, I'd never once thought I'd get a world champion. I'd never once thought I would. I thought, okay, then we got offered, we started getting on fight shows, and it's a story in itself being a coach, isn't it? And that's why, like, now I've moved on to, I'm doing a lot in the professional boxing, and I always thought, one day I'm going to get a professional world champion. I've done it in the kid.
Yeah.
Day, and I've been in it 3 years. I've not been big-headed at all. I've got a professional boxing world champion. So now we've gone into the amateur boxing, and I'm thinking, I'm going to get a national champion in amateur boxing. And I'm so, the kids who are training, they're like, God, I'm tired. I'm like, I fucking don't care.
Yeah.
We're going to win this.
Yeah. Do you know what it is, Gav? I think when you're old and grey and you're sitting there in your rocking chair and you got your slippers on and your pipe and, you know, watching Antiques Roadshow or whatever it is old people do, you know, you got to look back and you got to be happy with what you've done as a coach, because you can't go back and, like, when you hit like your 50s, your 60s, you can't go back and do what you should have done in your prime. No. So it's like, I'm just happy to, I mean, Qasim, like I say, Mick Crossland and Dale were very good friends of mine, who has helped them achieve their goal of becoming a professional world champion. But with Kaz, it's like, Kaz is my boy. You know, he's like my son. And he's been in the gym since he was 10 years old. He's homegrown. You know, I've been in his corner for every one of his fights, and he's my pet project, Kaz is. So, you know,
let's rewind massively. Tell me about the first day he walked in that gym.
Oh, kid, man, for his age. So,
was he naturally gifted, or was it hard? Did he stand out from the class, or?
I think, like, we had a conveyor belt of like really good kids around the time that Kaz joined the gym, and he was, you know, he was good. He was all right. And then he started to shine, and when he started to compete, like, which is like 2 belts in, 3 belts in, he started to shine. And I remember sitting him down with his mum and his dad, because he was playing football for, I think it was Blues Youth. And then he was playing cricket for Warwickshire. I don't know anything about football, so forgive me. He was playing competitive cricket, competitive football, and his mum and dad were saying, oh, he wants to do kickboxing. And I sat him down in the change room and I said, listen, kid, I said, you're really good, but if you want to be the best at anything in life, you have to dedicate your life to it. So if I was you personally, I would choose one, fully expecting him to pick football or cricket, because kickboxing there's no money in. And he went, yeah, I hear what you're saying. I want to do kickboxing. And I was like, right, okay. So so then I knew that his commitment was with the kickboxing. And then really between the ages of like 13 and 15, he won everything. Yeah, he's always, I think Kaz is one of these kids that if it was basketball, he would have been a brilliant basketballer. If it was snooker, he would have been a brilliant snooker player. He's just a naturally gifted, athletic kid. He kind of like just ticks all the boxes, which makes my job easy. But I still think that to get him to the level that he's at now, it still took that extra level, you know, that extra level of commitment, not just from him, but from all his coaches and his family and his support network around him as well.
That plays a massive difference, doesn't it? Obviously, the support network, the coaches can do what they want to do, and they can work as hard as they want to work. But if they haven't got the support of the family, especially when he was a kid, bringing him down, you're up against it, aren't you?
Oh, his mum and dad were like super supportive. Jang and Rabina, shout out to those two, because they used to look after him and, you know, sell his tickets for him, do all his organize. Kaz didn't have to think for himself. You know, when it comes to the gym, I done all his thinking in regards to his training. Mum and dad done all his thinking in regards to his organisation. So yeah, he had a really good, strong family support network behind him, and that definitely played a part, because we had other kids in the gym that were probably equally as talented as Kaz, but their families weren't really over bothered, didn't come to watch them in competitions, and I think that's the bit that gets you over the line.
Yeah.
I was having this conversation with my missus earlier about our kids, about my kid and other kids around his same age. Like he started in our little Trojans class now, and you're not meant to start till you're 4. I've been a little bit naughty. He's 4. He's 4 next in 2 weeks' time. But I thought, if I'm allowed one thing, I'll get him into it. So if he's only 3, he's coming 4, and I've always said I'm not going to be strict. But like last week, he said, I don't want to go tonight. And I thought, oh, don't be that pushy parent. Let him off. But then Saturday come, I said, right, kid, you're going. You're going.
Yeah.
And like, we've now got him into swimming and stuff like that. And anything that he does, I will support him 1000%. And I think that from a coach's point of view, as well as a father. I know as a coach, you have to be so dedicated to achieve anything. So I'm never going to let him give up anything unless he really.
That's the thing with kids, though, innit, Gav? It's like kids are really fickle. Like their favourite cartoon will be this week. It'll be something completely different next week. Their favourite sport will be this week, something completely different next week. And I think you've just got to, if you make a commitment to something, and this isn't about kids, this isn't about martial arts, it's just a life thing. If you make a commitment to something, stick it out.
Yeah.
See it through. Because I think, what is it they say about that quick reflex? If you allow kids to just, I don't want to do that anymore, and you go, oh, don't worry about it, creates a quick reflex.
Yeah.
When anything becomes challenging for them, like their schoolwork becomes challenging, they've got a quick reflex. If their relationship with their boyfriend or their girlfriend becomes challenging, they've got that quick reflex. Whereas I think with martial art, if you're a martial artist, you know that to get something, it's a long road.
Yeah.
And you apply that to every aspect of your life, and
I agree with that. Because no matter what because I started off with karate when I was 4, I hated it. I hated it at times. But I had to go. My dad made me go. And I absolutely hated it at times. But then if I played football and I'm tired on a Sunday, I'm still going football.
Yeah.
You're laughing.
But don't you think
I've started playing golf?
I think one of the big things is
showing your age.
So you guys are both coaches. I'm not yet. I have coached sports to a degree when I was a kid, but I've always been surrounded by great coaches, and it's amazing how much of an influence they have. Not just when you're doing the sport then, but like later in life. Because I'll do things now, and I'll always look back to an old coach I had like when I was a kid. And I'd always just remember what he'd just tell me. And it would be like when I was playing football and I wanted to get into academy level, you can't do that. You're too small. So we got faster and stronger. And then I ended up doing it. And then I went into something else. And I've started getting this bit of a mentality that I got from them, my dad and these coaches that I've had, where if someone tells me I can't, it's like now with Gav with the boxing and stuff, like I'm getting a bit older and I want to fight at heavyweight. And everyone's going, well, you can't do that. That's stupid. And I'm like, you just watch me. But that's because of the people that I've worked with over the years that wouldn't allow me to give up. It wasn't a case of me wanting to quit. They wouldn't let me quit. So that's like what Gab's saying. It does affect you for everything. It's not just what you're doing in the moment. It affects you for life. Mate, I don't think people realise how important good coaches are.
Mate, like I say, it's a way of a lifestyle, and I'll agree. Like I said, I've started playing golf, and I went the other day, and this morning I thought, I was shit. I've got up and I've gone again. I had stuff to do, and I thought, I'm going to golf, and I'm going to it's a man. But enough about golf. What? Back to the fight. Let's go back to the fight. With Qasim and Liam, obviously Qasim beat Dylan. Liam's beat Dylan. Would you say this is a harder fight than Dylan? And the reason I'm not just on about the fight, when you fought Dylan, it was two from Birmingham. It was the build-up. It was both fans cheering. It was the whole aspect. Would you say this is a bigger challenge than the Dillon fight?
I think that the Dillon fight presented a lot of challenges for Kaz because of the circumstances around it, i.e., he'd had 3 first-round knockouts. Does that prepare him? Three first-round knockouts after a 4-year layoff. Does that prepare him going in with a young, hungry lion like Dillon? That's the variable.
Yeah.
Kaz at his peak, with no layoff and no ring rust to shake off, I think that's a different fight between him and Dillon. You know, I think, and a younger Kaz, I think that, you know, Kaz is like 30, 32 years old now. I think a mid-20s Kaz against a Dillon, I think that's a different fight again. So I think Kaz done what he needed to do to win that night. But I didn't think, I looked at it and it was like, it was a good performance in respect of like he won it off the jab. But he didn't do what we wanted him to do in that fight. But the circumstances around that, I mean, he won't tell anyone, but he had a chest infection that week. He was on a couple of days of antibiotics. So not only was he shaking off ring rust, but he was like in the back of his head, it's like, right, I could potentially do 12 hard rounds here with a chest infection. So he probably overpaced himself a little bit with Dill.
And like you said about that first round knockout, going into a 12-round fight with Dill, that's going to pay dividends against Liam, knowing that he can do that for the 12 rounds.
Well, to be honest, Gav, like in his peak, we never questioned Kaz's ability to go 12 rounds. It was just he hadn't been 12 rounds for, what was it, 5-6 years? And that was the question mark. That was the variable. And we were comfortable and we were happy going into it. But then he got a chest infection and he's like, oh, shit, something else to negotiate your way around. But I remember when we were studying Dillon and we were watching the Liam Alford fight. And I said back then that stylistically that Liam was probably a harder fighter for Kaz than what Dillon would have been. I thought Dillon was a little bit more basic in terms of his skill set, but very good at what he was doing, or very good at what he could do. I thought that Liam was a little bit more unorthodox. But let's have it straight. When Dillon fought Liam, and I don't know how you guys feel about it, but we've been watching this fight recently, and there was nothing in that fight. Right. Nothing in it.
Was
no.
Close.
It was. Was you there, Steve?
Yeah, I was there. I was filming.
Oh yeah,
I was doing all your backstage stuff when I was at, and I was at Qasim's last fight as well, and last 2, I think. The one thing I will say is,
when you watch Liam versus Dillon, though, it no matter what way you scored it, whether you scored it to Liam or you scored it to Dillon, you're scoring it by like 1 or 2 rounds maximum, and it comes down to what you like, you know, as a coach or as a judge. Me and Kaz have watched that recently, and we're looking at it like Dillon's landing the serious shots in that fight. Dillon's landing the cleaner shots, the more concussive shots. So if I was scoring it, I'd probably sway to Dillon. Mate, do you know what I mean?
I'll never forget, I sat there on that show. Two of the best fights that I've ever watched live is Dillon against Liam and Kaz against Liam. And
Kaz against Dillon.
Yes,
yeah.
So the third one's going to be but the atmosphere for those fights. You've been in it a lot longer than me. There can't have been many like that night.
Yeah, I think it's different when you're in the corner, aren't you? Because you're caught in the eye of the storm in the corner, and fighter as well. The fighter doesn't. I think from a fan's perspective, you feel something different than what the fighter feels. Because the fighter's trying to keep his cool and stay zoned out. Corners kind of keep his cool and stay zoned out. Everybody told me it was atmosphere. It was brilliant. I think as a coach, you're just trying to get the job done, aren't you?
I'll never forget that night. It was like you had Qasim and Dillon fighting, but then you was pumped up like you was fighting, Baggy was pumped up like he was fighting. Sean was pumped up. Waller was pumped up. When the atmosphere started going, the corners were going, hey, it was just electric. And going back to Dylan against Liam, it's a pick and fight. That was a pick and fight. Do you
think though? So because I think going into that fight, and this is, I mean, Dylan's been down sparring, Cass, and he's done like they've done 30 rounds with each other near enough since in the preparation for this next fight. And we spoke to Dylan, and I said to Dylan, "Did you underestimate him based on the fact that he's this young kid from Ireland, not over decorated in terms of like his professional career?" New kid on the block. Looking at him, he's probably not this big monstrous knockout puncher that you need to worry about. He's done the amateur circuit. He's been around the block. Did you take your eyes off the prize with him in terms of, did you think it was going to be an easy fight? And I don't think that Dylan underestimated him because he always trains hard. But what he did say was he always had in his head that he was going to get to him late, just break him down, work his body, get to him late. And obviously, Liam proved to be a little bit more.
He's very durable.
Durable and
the
battle hardened.
And that's one thing. That's one thing that I think the Qasim and Liam fight's going to bring is pace, is tempo. I think it's going to be action packed from this first bell. I do. I really think it's going to be.
Qasim looks insanely sharp on the videos you've been posting. Like,
yeah.
Ridiculously sharp. I was watching the video even with someone this morning. We were just watching one of your little clips and we was like, shit. He moves so fast.
And now, obviously, with the shows, it's a history-making fight again. This is what the third? No, is it the second history-making fight in terms of belts being on the line in the same fight?
I think so. I think you've had like champions throughout like the history of kickboxing that fight for another belt, which is cool. Like of Marlon Hunt. I think he won 12 world titles. But I don't think they were ever all up on the line at any one point. Well, there's a reason for that. It's like it's sanctioning.
Yeah.
It costs a lot of money. Yeah. But I think that this fight, like, I don't know if people are aware, but we were given the option of either putting our belts on the line or not.
Yeah, I said, I'll be openly honest. I said, you didn't know if WKA aren't allowing their belt on, I don't think you should put yours on.
But we're of the mindset, if we lost to Liam, which we're not going to, but if we lost to Liam, would you feel like you were a champion with all these belts that you've still got by default?
Yeah.
And of course you wouldn't. Kaz wouldn't feel like a champion if he lost to Liam. He'd feel like Liam's the man now.
To be honest, that's one of the things that's not surprised me, but since I've been working with yourself and Kaz, how easy it's been. So, Kaz, look, the WKA can't be on the line. I don't think you should put yours on. Why not? Why? I want to be number one. I've got to put them on the line. If I lose them, if I lost a fight without them, I won't want them anyway. It's just okay.
But that's the thing, Gav. It's like when you're insanely confident in your ability and your team's ability and your potential, why are you talking about what ifs? What if you lost, or what if this, or what if that? Exactly. It's not going to happen.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Because of what we're investing, it's like that margin for error, and it's like we've got. And again, I hate feeling like this, Gav, because I don't want it to sound arrogant, because it certainly isn't coming from that kind of place. But my job as a coach is to look at Liam and to do a risk assessment on him. What are his strengths? What are his weaknesses? What does he do well? What does he do not so well? What does Liam do better than Kaz? Question to you. What do you look at Liam and you go, right, what has Liam got that he does better than Kaz? Does he hit harder?
I would say from probably, from my point of view, what does he do better? That's a hard question. That's a trick question. But
I think at the start of camp, though, you probably would have said speed.
I was going to say, not what he does better, but probably what some people might think, and this is what makes this fight intriguing, is he hasn't been, he's a lot younger.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not as many miles in the tank.
Mm-hmm.
But flip that round, he hasn't really fought since Dylan. And Kaz has had all these fights. So that's just a fan's point of view kind of thing, what people will be saying. And it is an intriguing fight. It is. It's got everyone talking. And I think the reason it's got people talking is what everyone's doing to promote it. And the fact that Qasim is putting his belts on the line, WKO are putting their belt on the line. It's people want the sport to grow are going to shine through this because they're going to put stuff on the line for the fighters to grow. It's not about bollocks and you can't fight for this, you can't fight for that. If you want the sport to grow, you need a Qasim Beg or Liam Alford or whoever it may be to fly that flag as a undisputed world champion. The only way you're going to become an undisputed world champion is by all the belts coming on the line. Not saying, right, Kaz, if you want to win this belt, you've got to go there.
Yeah,
you've got to go. You've got to go and fight on this show. No, we're building a brand for the fighters, so they haven't got to travel. Like Qasim now can be undisputed world champion in his hometown of Birmingham. Anthony Joshua fights. He dictates where he fights. If he lost all 4 belts, it might be a different story. On about AJ. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but Gav, when we first come back on the scene and we signed with TMA, it's like you'll be the first to back for us. We weren't making no demands about illusions of grandeur where we were like 4 years ago. When Kaz come back on the scene, he was starting from scratch.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think Dylan was a man at the time, when he was Dylan the world champion at the time.
Dylan was flying the flag. Dylan was.
And do you know what we were? We were like, kudos to Dylan. Yeah. We ain't even going to mention Dylan.
That never happened. That never happened, did it? Actually, you never once. When he come back, he never once turned around and said, "Gav, I want him. I want him." He just said, "I'm doing me, and I'm going to come through."
Dylan. Obviously, listen, they're at the same way. Obviously, Kaz is looking at Dylan and going, "You're on my radar." But it'd be disrespectful for Kaz to be calling out Dylan when Dylan's the man that's doing it. And Kaz has been like, for the last 4 years, sitting at home on his PlayStation or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's got back in.
Can I
just
say, from a fan point of view, having very little knowledge of kickboxing, but having seen both the fight, I've limited in what I've seen of Liam, and I've seen a little bit more of Qasim. From a fan's point of view, what I think is going to be exciting about this fight, because I know very little about the technical aspects of it all, is when I saw Qasim fight and when I've seen him train and all the rest of it, he looks very silky, he looks very technical. He looks like he's got a good ring craft. He certainly looked like he knew the game. I remember turning to someone in the crowd at his last fight and literally saying, this guy knows what he's doing. Like, and I didn't really know much about Qasim at that point. When I saw Liam fight, what I liked about him was he just reminded me of just a typical Irish fighter that loves and will, and if he wants to, he can just rough someone up if he needs to. He looked like he got some good technical ability too, but he did take some big shots in that fight and he just kept coming forward. And that's what excited me about Liam. So I was like, yeah, this kid's pretty tough. Like, and I think when you get that, you said before, styles make fights, don't they? And I just think that's, I don't know. That's what excites me about it.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. You can't mess with these Irish people.
No,
listen, I've
no
got
offense, but they are.
My mum's Irish, My dad's Irish. I got nothing but Irish blood flowing through my veins. My chief second, which is Sean Quinn, the mighty Quinn, Irish to the soles of his boot. I know you can't mess with Irish people. Power to the Irish people, okay, and all my relatives out there. But, and here's the big but, you look at Kaz and you instinctively, well, based on his last 3 or 4 fights, you go, oh, silky skills and on the back foot. I look at Kaz and I say, that's not really his strength. His strength, he is so strong and he hits so hard. But of his last couple of fights, he's chosen to sit on the back foot, work the counter, safety first. It reminds me of like a Klitschko.
Yes,
you know,
he
will jab you to death, prod you to death, and then in the 11th round, he'll go toe to toe with you.
Yeah,
so I found this fight, you're going to see a different Cass.
But that's what that was just from, like, you know, a quick observation of a couple of fights that I've seen, and that's what, as an outsider, not knowing much about it, that's why I would want to tune into that fight, and because it's a good mixture of styles, and styles make fights.
What we're gonna do with this channel, obviously, Neil, I'm going to tell you, me and Steve have spoke about it, and I've spoke to you about it as well. We're going to make this a regular thing. So leading up to this fight, I'm not just going to get the fighters on. I think we get Mick Crossland on. I think we get Dale Woods. I think we get these coaches, these analysts, and we break down the fight. I think, Steve, that's our next thing. I think next week we get a coach on and we talk tactics from an outsider, not to a coach, to a coach. I think let's get an outsider in to break this fight down. What do you reckon? I think that'll be a good one.
I think we're quite brilliant. That'd be interesting.
Brilliant. But can I just say, Gav, as well? Like, I've had a couple of like private messages from people saying, "Why are you showing all this footage? You know, like you're putting on this footage. Why are you showing this footage?" And I just want to make this clear. To put this footage on, and this was the reason why this footage eventually started to come on. And it was like, we went into training camp, and I said to Cass, if I could have one thing from my fighting days, which I haven't got, it would be training footage. Now, you see, you can like go onto YouTube and see Nassim Hamid training in his prime, or Chris Eubank training in his prime, or Nigel Benn hitting a bag, or Lennox Lewis, or Frank Bruno, Mayweather footage. With a fighter, the only thing they get as a keepsake of their career is the actual fight.
Yeah.
And for me, the enjoyable bit and the big way you grow is the training camp.
Yeah.
So what we decided to do for Kaz's like show his grandkids was just to document it all, to film it, document it all. And then we started to put it up on week 1. And then I was getting loads of coaches messaging me going, that, you know, the footage is incredible. I'm going to show this to the kids in the gym. It's going to give them training ideas. It's like the inspiration for the next generation. And I think we spoke about this before, Gav. Kickboxing isn't where it needs to be because the general public don't know the fighters. They only know the fight. And by speaking to them on a regular basis, you get to know the fighters' personalities. When you get to know the fighters' personalities, you invest in them. Like, I remember I used to love Roy Jones Jr. Obviously, he was an amazing fighter. But equally as much, I'd sit down and watch like an hour interview of Roy Jones Jr. and be hanging off his every word. And I think this is what the next generation need. They need like role models, not just the inaccessible fighters that you only see competing in the fight, but also the build-up and interviews, and they get to know the fighters. And I think emotionally you invest in them a lot more there. Absolutely. So that's the reason that we did it. It wasn't to psych out Liam, and it wasn't to show all our tricks and all our strategies. You know, there's so much more obviously that we're doing that we're not putting up. But,
and just touching on that, I'm going to have to go in a minute, guys, because I've obviously gone to my phone and I've...
You're going to die.
I'm going to die.
He's run out of credits, Steve.
We can talk all night.
It's beeping, just get beep, 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 beep. No, but I've seen a status. I'm going to leave it on this, I think. I seen a status the other day, and it really meant well when you talk about kickboxing and sport in general. if you sell 20 tickets, you haven't got fans. You've got friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
If you sell 300 tickets, you've got fans. The only way Anthony Joshua, Floyd Mayweather, Canelo Alvarez sell out 70,000 arenas is because people get to know them, like what you're saying. And the only way you're going to get fans is by doing what you're doing. And I think that's what every fighter needs to realise.
It's a
new world now, isn't it? It's not like before.
I've been working.
It really sat with me, that did. That if you sell 20 tickets, you've got friends and family. If you sell 300 tickets, you've got fans. And the only way you're going to get fans is by them 300 people getting to know you. And that's...
Marketing will get you to the top a lot faster than talent these days. That's the trouble.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a good thing, but it's true. I mean, you see the likes of Tommy Fury now using the Love Island thing and all the other different things he's doing on YouTube and all the rest of it. But, you know, living off his brother's name. But that will probably ultimately get him to the top faster than someone else who's equally as good. Yeah,
he's a 4-fight novice getting paid £50,000-60,000 a fight.
Yeah,
but Gav, that's why like this new generation of fighters coming through, when they're looking at what Kaz is doing, and they're saying, right, he's got the talent, but he's also got the exposure.
Yeah,
they're going to start doing the same thing, and that's when the shows are going to be packed.
And that's when kickboxing moves to arenas.
I think a lot of fighters. I know
you see boxing at the NIA or NEC.
I think a lot of these fighters, though, professional fighters, are finally starting to click, because at first they were all bitching and moaning about these YouTube fighters. But the YouTube fighters realised they got a platform, they got the audience, so there's money to be made. Now, if the fighters who have got the real talent can take a little bit of what the YouTubers are doing, similar to what you're doing, and build that influence and actually show the talent as well, then that's going to put more eyeballs on the sport, and that's obviously what we're all trying to do.
And proof is in the pudding as well, because the amount of calls, messages that both myself and Kaz has got from people that are outside of our circle wanting tickets for this fight, you know, it shows that the media work is working. And Liam's playing his part as well. You know, Liam's putting up some stuff as well.
He reckons he's bringing over a good army from Ireland, which will make the atmosphere good. But guys, I'm going to have to love and leave you because I'm about to die.
It's been great. Could have talked all night.
But
Take
guys,
care, mate.
It's been a pleasure, Neil. And,
everybody watching, just to let you all know, this obviously a lot of people tend to watch it after we've done it. So it's going to be available on the TMA Sports Network page. It'll also be available over on the YouTube channel as well, if you prefer to watch on YouTube. So go check either of them out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and all that good stuff. And we'll see you again soon.